Hey there, you are very welcome to today's episode of Corporate to Cam. I am speaking with Sarah Slattery from thetravelexpert.ie. Sarah is a freaking inspiration. She is amazing. She has developed a business from a website and an Instagram, and it is a viable business. It's an exciting business. She's just full of integrity, full of honesty, and there's absolutely no bullshit about this woman. She's brilliant. If you are looking for inspiration to start a business, if you are looking for inspiration to continue your business through hard times, such as at COVID, where she grew, if you are looking at how to overcome your fears and how to face your fears, getting in front of a camera, getting outside your comfort zone, this is the podcast for you. Sarah Slattery is, as I said, an inspiration, and I hope you enjoy her journey from corporate to Cam. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. It's great to be here, Linda. Thanks a million for inviting me on.
Oh, thanks a million for agreeing. That I'm very honoured. It's brilliant. So we'll get straight into it. We're here to talk about you and your life before the travel expert. Tell me a little bit about life before thetravelexpert.ie.
So I was a travel agent for 24 years. I actually started, would you believe, when I was 18. I was supposed to go to college, and I got a summer job in John Cassidy Travel. Well, what was supposed to be a summer job when I was 17 or something, sticking brochures and collecting tickets and all those kind of things for £50 a week at the time. And I absolutely loved it. And then I didn't go to college. So needless to say, there was a bit of a drama in the house. To be fair, my parents were actually grand about it. I think back then it wasn't such a major deal if you didn't go to college. That wouldn't be like now, So I stayed there for about 2 years and kind of learned a lot. And then I was doing a night course. I suppose I still wanted to have a degree. When you miss out in college, you want to have something. So I did a night course on travel and tourism, and I met John Bergen, who's the owner of Sky Tours, at that, and he offered me a job, and I went there, and I stayed there for 20 odd years. So I kind of worked. It started a small business. They ended up at one stage with 3 shops, and I was a director, and so it was a big job, and a lot of staff, but I loved it. Worked with great people. And really enjoyed the kind of sales buzz of it and all of that. But I suppose then you just get a bit older, kids come along, and also the recession was like really tough. Back then no one was traveling, and as well the online, people started booking online, so you could kind of see in a sense that people were coming in asking for your prices and then going home booking it online.
Right.
So it got really quite, I suppose I just got a bit burnt out from it. You kind of, I think particularly when you're selling and doing that and managing people and stuff, you can do it for so long, and then eventually I saw it myself. I was getting ratty, I was getting snappy with clients, and you could just see it happening. So I kind of knew in my heart it was time to move on, and I kind of had an idea for the travel website or a travel blog to kind of show people where to book, how to book online. I could see people still wanted the information, but they didn't know what to do with it. They wanted to book themselves, they were browsing online, but they weren't sure if it was safe or what to do. And at the time, most of the travel blogs were like holidaying on a shoestring or, backpacking around Thailand. That was the kind of typical travel blog back then. There wasn't anybody doing kind of mainstream holidays or holidays that you'd go on yourself or that I'd go on. So that's the kind of gap I spotted. I didn't really know how I was going to monetize it, but that was where I suppose the idea came from. And I set it up and I started writing articles, and then at the time it was still coming out of the recession. My husband hadn't really worked. He was a photographer, he was self-employed, and of course at this stage everybody who had an iPhone was a photographer, and so he, that was kind of at that stage, and then so the recession was kind of hurting him as well, and he was offered a job. So at that stage he was doing school runs and everything, and I kind of said, this is really my chance. He needs to take a full-time job anyway. And I knew I'd pick up something. I knew I'd get part-time, or I wasn't too worried that I knew my kind of big corporate job, I suppose, was going to be gone, but I knew I'd pick up something if I had to. So I just kind of thought I'd never get any more of an excuse to go again. I needed a push, and I suppose him getting an offer to job was a bit of a push. I just went for it. And in fairness, I started off, this is be typical of me now. I don't shut up. You probably want to ask me.
No, I'll jump in if I go for it. Go for it.
But so I suppose I started off fairly slowly. I did that. I don't know if it's still going, that kind of start your own business course, or where it's pretty much the same as the whole, it's like €200 a week or something. And I started that for 6 months. And then Irish Travel Trade News at the time offered me 10 hours a week to kind of cover events and just write some travel deals for them and stuff like that. So that kind of helped a little bit as well. But it was still like really like very small income, you know. And,
well, from what you'd been used to.
Yeah, it was a big change, but my husband was working and that was fine. But literally 6 months in, 6 months into his job, and the company closed. So all of a sudden there was the 4 of us with 2 kids, and I had my little travel blog going, what are we going to do? So I always say sometimes when your back's to the wall like that is probably when you push yourself. And I wouldn't have been one. I'd never really ask for business. I don't really ask people to do things in general. I'm just not, I like to kind of do it myself, which is probably a bit of a problem when it comes to delegation and stuff. But yeah, I don't tend to ask for help or business. But I did, in fairness, then reach out to a lot of contacts I had in the industry. A lot of people were really good. They put small little ads on my website. I think they were like €200 a month or something at the time. But like I had 3 or 4 of them, and I had the bit of money from Irish Travel Trade News, and I started to kind of build up. And also when somebody saw one person doing an ad, then someone else then might say, oh, that must be working. So they do an ad. And stuff like that. So it kind of started small, and then it just kind of really took off, I suppose. I started doing a weekly travel deals post. One thing that I'd always say when people said to me, when I was worried, I suppose, at that stage, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to monetize it? What am I going to do? And I was listening to one of those inspirational speakers. I think it might have actually been Una O'Hagan from Mars, but I'm not sure. I don't know who it was, some woman anyway, and they stood up on stage and said, the best advice I can give you is to do something that you're good at, and use what you're good at in your business. And I thought, well, I was always good at finding deals. Like when I was as a travel agent, I was always good at the brochures would come in back then, and you'd have to go through all the price lists and pick out the cheap prices and advertise them. And I was really good at finding them. And then I got to the stage there, I'd find the offers and send them down to all the sales team. And it was definitely one of, I suppose, my strengths. So I said, well, maybe I'll start a travel deals post. And in fairness, that was really good. So I found offers with travel agents. I found offers to book direct. I found a kind of a mixture. And it was always independent. It wasn't sponsored or anything. So I always gave the customer the best way to book. So whether that was with a travel agent or direct or whatever. And I did that in the deals. And that really, I suppose, was the one big difference that kind of got me started. I mean, and now loads of people are doing deals online.
You can. But I mean, the thing about, as you say, you went and you gave the right deal. Do you know what I mean? It was the truth. Like, you weren't going to get paid by somebody to push a deal or anything like that. It was always what you felt was right.
And even now, still, my travel deals posts are independent. Still, I do them every 2 weeks now. Now, sorry, I do have sponsored content and offers that I'd put out separately for other people, and I would obviously disclose if they're ads or whatever. But in my travel deals posts, they are always, they're offers I go through and I pick and I find them, and I link them within the post. And it's still one of my most popular posts all the time. And it's still, I'm sure, the reason some people tune into me or get my newsletter or whatever, you know. I don't do it as regularly as I used to, but it's still a big part of the website.
How did you find that transition from, you know, being a director of a company and, you know, working with a load of people, and then all of a sudden that, as you say, your back's against the wall and you have to make this work? Did you find it lonely?
Oh God, I really did. I'm such a social person. I'm never on my own. And I find it very hard to even relax. Like, I don't even read, you know, if I read, it's something to do with work. And I, you know, I was always a bit of a workaholic. So yeah, I did find it really weird. I remember at the time, actually, God, there's a great guy in travel, Peter O'Hanlon. I remember people used to, you know, we're being polite and they'd say, well, we must meet for coffee, you know, now that you're off. And like, I was going, yeah, okay, when? Next Tuesday? And like, they were just being polite. I know they were. And I was like, okay. I remember sitting in the Westin Hotel with this guy, and like, I'd say he was going, what am I even doing here? Like, I just basically, you know, it was a real case of get me out of the house, go, you know. And it was funny, you know, if there was a do on or a lunch on or event on, you'd be invited, I'd be there. So I tended to I went to a lot of things, but it was, that was just, I loved getting out, love meeting people, and I suppose it's part of who I am. So I still do that. I still feel now, I still go to functions and things like that as much as I can, because I do like the buzz and the chat, you know. Just to
like be that's the thing when we do kind of go out on our own, we've no kind of water cooler moments. We've no how was your weekend kind of thing.
And the family are sick of listening to you talking about it, because I am, you know, it's all I bloody talk about, you know, but they're sick of it. They're like, me talk about it. So it's either the kids or the business, you know. So it's if you're out with other people, it's different, you know. It's it's completely necessary, I believe, anyway.
And did you think about you mentioned that there would have been other offers there and everything? Did you think about going back in when you left Sky Tours? Did you think about going back to a corporate position, or what was this?
I didn't. I never. And you see, I'd be a bit pride. As my mother always said, pride comes before a fall. I'll never forget it during the recession. And would you think about doing that? I'm like, no, we're not going to fail. Like, it just isn't an option. Actually, I have to show you something. I picked this up in can you see that?
Yes.
Failure is at the Kennedy Space Center. Failure is not an option. I have it on my desk now. But yeah, I know, like, I couldn't go back with my tail between my legs and say it didn't work. I just couldn't. It was not. Now I've worked literally, like, people think, oh, she's a nice little lifestyle, you know, blog there sitting at home on the couch, but I worked literally 12-hour days. I worked nonstop. I was writing this, that, and and I still do. I still work ridiculous amount of hours. No one will believe me, like, if the amount of hours I put into it. So I did a lot of that, and I'd no problem doing something on the side, but I'd no. And I, you know, I was very happy in Sky Tours. I was comfortable there. I couldn't imagine going back into some other business saying, you know, can I have my holidays this week? I couldn't, you know, I just wouldn't be able for that.
You weren't going into another business at director level.
No, I just, well, I wouldn't have probably got that anyway, but I just wouldn't. I wasn't, you know, it was just what was never really on the cards. In fact, a lot of people thought there was some secret. When I left in the industry, everybody kept thinking I was going to do something else. They all thought like this was a pretend, and I had this big job lined up, and I was like, no, I don't actually, this is what I'm doing. I'm not actually going anywhere else. Like, they looking at me like I was mad, absolutely stone mad. But in fairness, you know, I had obviously looked into it, and at the time I remember being at a lunch, and there's a company who've since gone bust, mind you, Low Cost Holidays, and I was talking to a guy there, and he had said that affiliates in the UK were selling more than travel agents at the time.
Wow.
And, you know, and this was now 10 years ago, 12 years ago maybe, and that the affiliate side at that stage was really untapped. Like, people didn't really know about it. And that there was a huge scope there as well. So I kind of knew that if I wrote the right content, the affiliate side would work as well, you know. So it was just, I had the ideas in my head. I knew that it could be big if I put the right time and effort into it.
And that's the thing. It's like you're talking about 12-hour days and everything like that, but if you love it, like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? It's not like you were upset doing those 12-hour days or anything. All right, there's a fear there. I really want this to work and everything like that. But I mean, you can see your passion for it. So it is work, but it's still a nice thing to do as well for you.
Absolutely. Like, I really do love it. I know it sounds kind of, you know, some of the times it's hard work, but then there's so many lovely, like, times. So, and I love being my own boss. I love being able to say, well, actually, I'm not working today, or, you know, I'm not doing this today, or I'm not doing that. Or, like, even when I I know it might sound mad, but just even changing my newsletter to fortnightly, like it just made such a difference, because I just felt it was week to week to write the content for the newsletter, and I was getting like it was just too much. And when I changed,
people don't need to see it every week.
No, as my husband would say to me, like, they're not sitting there waiting for it to come in. Like, I'm sure they'll survive another week without it. But I had this thing that I had to do it every week. And I was doing, when I was on holidays, I'd be doing it. And I had to, as if like consistency is key and all these kind of things that you learn about. But actually, when I changed it to fortnightly, made a huge difference. And it just gave me a bit more time. So it is lovely to be able to design your own day, and to, if you want to really work hard. If you want to have a quiet day, have a quiet day. So that's great. And I suppose now it's 8 years, so it's
mad. And I love that, design your own day, because I mean, the thing about it is, I'm going to move on to your social media now, and huge congratulations. Like yesterday you hit 40,000 followers on Instagram, which is just amazing. Like, I mean, Instagram is so alien to some people. Like I'm only on Instagram a few years and everything like that, and it is quite a daunting place, and you really have to work hard and have true content to make Instagram work. And you've done that. Your account is just beautiful, but it's informative at the same time.
Oh, thanks a million. No, I have to say it took so long to get to 10,000, but then it seemed to grow really quickly. And I grew a lot during COVID as well. But over the last, I've gone from 30 to 40 in a couple of months. Like, it's really amazing how sometimes, like, I don't even know how I got to 40 all of a sudden. In the last week, 2,000. I know I got a great shout out from Ellen from Waxperts, but it just seemed to, sometimes, you're wondering where they're coming from. Sometimes it just really happens, and then other weeks could be really slow. It might be nothing happening. It's a funny old place, Instagram. And I see now they want you to do reels, and like, I don't generally go with what I just put up what I like. And the one thing I do like to do is I like to keep my feed nice, nice. I think that's important. I think that's important for followers as well.
Well, that's your shop window, I suppose, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I think, you might see a nice post come up on something, and then you click it to see, will you follow them? Then if you look in their grid and it's all messy and not nice, you don't tend to follow them. So I kind of like to keep that a bit precious about it, actually.
That has worked for you. That has worked for you. We were talking before we came on, and I was saying to you that my husband follows nobody on Instagram, and he follows you, and that's huge. Like, that's a huge compliment. And he signed up to your newsletter. So, like, it's, your content is, as I say, it's informative, and it's so pretty as well. Like, your stuff on Cinque Terre a couple of weeks ago. Oh my God!
It's easy to make that place look pretty, in fairness. Amazing.
So like, where did you get the inspiration for? First of all, let's talk about the shop window. And do you have a secret sauce for that, or is it just you think that it looks nice, and you're going from like your days as a travel agent and that?
No, I don't. Everything is on my phone. All my photos are from my iPhone, and in fact, it's 2 years old. I'm going to get the new one now when it comes out. I'm a bit excited about that.
Sure, we'd be fabulous. We'd more fabulous.
Looking at me now with photos. But no, it's all. My husband was a photographer, and at the very beginning, he helped me with. He used to take some photos, but his cameras are, yourself, they're so old now. The iPhones are better. So and by the time, if you took it on a professional camera, by the time you get it and post it, it's gone. So I kind of given up on the whole camera thing, and I just do everything on my phone now, and it's easier. And it's just, it's just handy for me. And I don't use any of those Lightrooms or any of those apps or anything. I do use the filters on Instagram, but that's really pretty much all I do.
You could give lessons in that, Sarah. Oh my God, like, seriously, get onto the Travel Expert on Instagram, because they're beautiful. I'm like, how did she do that? That is fab.
Take probably 20 for every nice one. My poor daughter is plagued every time I go away. She's actually so patient. She's only 11, but God, she's brilliant. She'd be getting down in her hunkers and getting the right angles, and she's unbelievable. Like, she's great. So she's my new little secret weapon.
I love it. in COVID, you said that things grew in COVID. What were people looking for? Was it just basically an escape, or what did you find that people were looking for in COVID, and how did it help your business grow? Not just the Instagram, obviously the website and everything.
Yeah, well, it was weird because obviously the panic set in, and I literally had, at that stage, I'd probably 4 or 5 different clients every month that paid me to write content for them on my site, but still, advertise stuff for them. And there were regular contracts that I had every month, and literally March came and they all just pulled the plug, and that was the end of them. So I have another revenue stream whereby the sort of typical type Google ads that are on websites. I have a kind of an upmarket version. I signed into an ad company, so you'll see if you're on my website, ads popping up all the time. Might annoy you, but that's how I make my money.
Yeah, well, we have to make money.
Yeah, so I had that, but that was all I had then, because all my clients were gone, and all the affiliate income that you thought you had. The affiliate income sounds great, and you see the bookings coming in and you're thinking, oh great, that's another one, but you only get paid when people travel. So you may think you have money coming, but if it's all cancelled, you get nothing. So that was all gone as well. So yeah, I mean, I going back to my failure is not an option thing. Like I just knew I had to do something. So I sort of said, well, I better concentrate on the ad revenue. At least I know if I have views to the website, I'll still get something. And I was getting the government PUP or whatever that thing as well. So I said, well, look, that the two together will have to be enough. And to be fair, I think you could earn €400 a month or whatever you could earn. I can't remember what it was, and then still get that. So I started writing kind of things that I thought people would want to read, like holidays in Ireland, about how to help people get refunds on flights, cancellations, what to do, passenger locator forums for traveling during COVID, all that kind of stuff. So more sort of travel tips and advice kind of thing. And with the exception of 1 or 2, a lot of the Irish stuff did very well, and they're still on the website, which is great. So a lot of the time and effort I put into writing posts on pet-friendly hotels in Ireland, or hotels in Ireland with lodges on site and things like that, they're still there.
Yes.
So, and they're still generating traffic, which is brilliant. So it wasn't like it was a waste of time anyway.
Yeah.
And some posted really well, like how to get a refund from Ryanair was number 1, was actually on top of Ryanair when you Googled how to get a refund from Ryanair, which was insane. So I would have got a lot of traffic from that. But I think the most important thing was that most of the other travel websites, all the newspapers stopped doing any travel coverage.
Right.
All the Sunday papers, it was like everyone had just closed down. And in fairness, people weren't traveling, so I get it. But I think because I was so visible and I just kept going and kept putting out my newsletters and, talking about, as I said, tips and different things, and a lot of Irish stuff, switched a lot of content to Ireland. It worked, and it made me visible, and it kept people following me, and my following actually grew during COVID. I'm pretty sure I had 10,000 going to Donegal during COVID, and now I'm 40. So like that was on Instagram, sorry, but it definitely grew. And I think partly because I kept working, but also partly because everyone else stopped.
Yes.
So I think, they were happy to get their PUP or whatever it was. Like I ended up coming off the PUP payment early in September because business came back, which was brilliant. So I was really actually proud of that. That was kind of
absolutely.
So,
for any, like, whether you're a travel writer or a blogger or a fashion or whatever, what would you say, like, for social media tips you would give somebody? Like what would be, I suppose, what would you do consistently to make sure that, do you have a strategy is the question.
I don't have a set strategy other than I said I like having on Instagram, I like having my grid nice. Sometimes it's really hard to call it on Facebook. Sometimes you put up content and it's really engaging, and then other times nothing happens, and you're kind of nearly looking at the time of day. It makes a difference. The Sunday I always find is the best, but I think it's important not to just do the hard sell all the time.
Yeah.
You need to put up other content, like whether it's sharing other people's content, funny stories, whatever, once it's within your theme as well. Like, you know, try and stick to what your niche is or your theme is. I think when you start going off into talking about other things that you're not an expert or not seen as an expert on, it kind of loses, you know. And, you know, I also think as well, like, you know, I think you need to be a bit informative. You also need to be, obviously, honesty is the most important thing. Sorry if I say that already. Honesty is the most important thing, because you can't send somebody, well, for me, you can't expect someone to spend a fortune on a holiday and you say it's good and it's not good, or, you know, like you just can't do that. So honesty is the most important, but it also, you have to put things into perspective, and be quite informative, because I might go off and rave about a Dare Manor or something, right? But it could be €1,000 a night, or I might spend €1,000 to stay there. And I might rave about a 4-star hotel in the Midlands or something. That's very basic, but it's amazing value because it was €100 a night and the lovely food or whatever. So it's important that you explain, like, why it's good, you know, as opposed to just going, oh, this is fabulous, it's amazing. Because people can pick up the wrong idea then and go, oh, she loved that and she loved the Dare Manor, it must be the same as the Dare Manor. But it's not, you know. So it's important to kind of be transparent, but also put things into perspective and explain, you know, well, that is good because of X. I mean, there's places in Mallorca, there's a particular place, I won't name it, but it would be my idea of absolute hell of a holiday, an all-inclusive resort, this particular one. I'm not, but the people love it, absolutely love it. It'll go back year after year. I don't know if you saw Rory's stories there of that.
Oh, Jesus.
Very famous property in Italy that people pay a fortune to go to. Now to pay that kind of money.
But I was like, I honestly was thinking, has he paid people to be in? That was real.
Oh no, that's totally real. And listen, the amount of messages from people who I got afterwards to say they were there and they do it as well, and then they go back, and I'm going, I don't get it. But this is what I mean by, you have to kind of realize that not everybody's like you. You know, you have to sort of, so at least if you explain, well, you know, this place is great if you like XYZ. If you don't like my kids, I love them to go to kids clubs, but they never went. But, you know, I wish they did. But loads of people will only go to a place because of kids club. So it's important that I get on and say, well, the kids clubs are great, and even though mine haven't gone, but explain. And I think that's probably where my sales background came. I have the sales background that others do, because I know what other people like and what they want to hear about. So it's not necessarily just my kind of thing. And
that's I suppose that's the difference between making money and not making money. It's like a blog can be very personal, and then it's not about your client then, because essentially, you know, you have a perspective of 40,000 clients on your Instagram, albeit some of them are there just to look at the pretty pictures. But, you know, it's not about, oh, this was my favorite holiday, or that, you know what I mean? People want to hear your advice, but they also want to know, you know, your experience from a sales perspective as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it depends on the holiday. I mean, we were in a place in Orlando this year, and it was, I think it was probably only a 3-star in Universal. And it was huge, the biggest hotel I've ever stayed in my life, and not the kind of place I would normally go. It was absolutely perfect. We got early access to the parks. It was so cheap. It was as cheap as staying in a 4-star on International Drive, and you had all the benefits. So like, you know, but it wouldn't be your typical standard. I wouldn't be raving about the hotel as such. But when you're on a holiday like Orlando, it's not about the hotel. It's about the most important thing is getting to the parks. And so sometimes I think, again, like that, it's putting things in perspective. It's saying why this is the place, or why I think it's the right place. And again, bearing in mind that there's loads of people who don't mind getting up at 7 o'clock and racing to get some beds. I would just think it's pure hell. But then again,
I like, even this year, there wasn't a race, but like the pool didn't open till 10, and by 9 I was like, are the towels on the bed? And we only did that about 4 days because we would get out and go to the beach, and but like, I have anxiety thinking about towels on beds.
Well, the last thing you want to do is set your alarm to get up and like not have you know, I just like, And like it's different but if you're going on a sun holiday, like you're going on a holiday to sit at, that's primarily like what a lot of the big part of the holiday is, to go to the pool and sit by the pool.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you have a sunbed.
I kept saying to my husband, I was like, they could definitely have more beds here, because people were coming down at 11 o'clock and there was no beds left. And I was like, first of all, why did you let that happen? And second of all, but there was huge space now, that it wasn't overcrowded and it was lovely to sit by the pool. But like, you would be annoyed if you were paying to be somewhere and you can't get a place by the pool.
Absolutely. And that's a really important part of it. I think the price is a huge factor. If you get a cheap deal last minute, you get a bargain break, it's a totally different experience. Or you don't mind those kind of things. But if you've spent a huge amount of money, saved for it, planned it, then it's so different. And that's going back to the kind of the difference in hotels and what you pay and what, it's all perspective, and it all depends on the actual. I love a cheap bargain break myself. Great, absolutely. And city breaks when you're out all day, doesn't matter. So it's all relative to the holiday experience.
And it's so funny what you'll accept when you're a couple and what you'll accept when you have kids, then it's completely different as well. And that's what you've tapped into nicely as well, is that a family holiday is completely different to your couple's holiday as well, and I mean, more than likely, if you're a couple, you won't be at those places racing for beds. We talked about delegation earlier on, and we briefly talked about you liking to do everything. Is there anything that you delegate in the business that you get rid of the?
I'm actually really bad. I have to say, I wish someone, now I would love somebody to come in, like a kind of a paid intern or something. I'm kind of on the hunt for somebody like that at the moment, maybe to do TikTok, because I know I have
TikTok.
I can't bear it. Even thought of it now is just like, I just don't have time, but I know I have to do it. So I'm on the hunt for somebody of those. I do have a few people, freelance people, who write for me, which is great. But then I end up editing half the things and, spending hours getting the photos and all that I shouldn't do, but I do. And I suppose I'm very visible and I'm the face behind it. So I think that's, well, in one way it's a good thing, but in another way it's a bad thing, because I think if you have something on your website, people think that you've endorsed it. And, so I kind of find it hard to let go of the reins a bit. If somebody was writing for me and they loved a particular place that I didn't like, I'd find it hard to kind of not, to put it on, to include it.
But that's important. So, I mean, like if you somebody may not have a good experience at a place, or, it goes against your integrity, and that's important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, if they particularly like a place and I don't particularly, if they think it's great, or they had a good experience and I didn't, sometimes I kind of need to let go a little bit. And I think if I would say in the article, this is a guest post written by XY or whatever, but a lot of people don't read the blurb at the top. They just they scroll down and they read the top 10 or whatever. So I could get an email from someone to say, thanks so much for your recommendation on X, and I'd be going, what hotel is that now? So it can be, I find I'm a bit of a control freak. I didn't think I was, but I am a little bit. So I do tend to micromanage a bit too much. I wish I could let that part of it go a bit, but unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing when you're in business by yourself and you're the face of it, and it is hard to let go. It is hard. And I mean, the best thing we can do is ask for help. And that's the thing. If any interns, any VAs, if you have any ideas for TikTok.
I would love that. I really would love that, because in fairness, I write 99% of it all myself. There's only a very few that I don't, but I'd like to change that. I'd like to have more people doing the content if I could. But again, it's just, and then some of the really good journalists, oh my God, like they're brilliant and I really respect them, but they don't write the same way, they might be more, I suppose mine is more, as my mother said, functional one time. I wasn't sure whether I found that as a compliment or not, but she said I'm a very functional writer. It's like, all right. But, just get to the point, and, so trying to find that kind of style sometimes is hard as well.
No need for the fluffiness around it. You want, the grit of it all. What do you, we've talked about this at the start, and 12-hour days and everything like that. What do you do now for you to be that bit more efficient? You know, is there anything that you will say no to? Is there anything that you have asked for help on? Is there anything that you've done to give you back a bit of time, I suppose?
I say no a lot of the time now. I'm getting so good at that. I'm actually so proud of myself for saying no.
Brilliant.
Now. I actually find it quite liberating now when I say no, you know, and I think that comes with age. Maybe you just get a bit better at that. But no, I don't tend to switch off much, unfortunately. And I wish I could a little bit more, but no, I don't. I don't know what to say to you really for that. I suppose sometimes you going on some of the nice trips and things like that. You know, they are, and some of the times they're really, really hard work.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, like that cruise I was on recently was fabulous. A lot of social media I was doing, but other than that, you know, it was a fabulous trip. Like it doesn't.
That looked amazing.
They don't always come like that, you know. You could be running from one place to the other in half an hour and quick go. And some of the press trips, you don't have time for a shower. You're literally going from the minute you land till bedtime. So it varies, it really, really does. But I suppose I'm kind of getting better at choosing the right trips now and choosing, you know, things like that. And the places that I'd have no interest in going somewhere that I know I wouldn't be mad about, because I'd have to say I didn't like it, and you know, I just go.
Is there like, you know, people look at your trips and everything like that? I mean, do they realize that you pay for your trips too? Do you know what I mean? Do you ever have, oh, you sure you've great life, you're getting all these free trips or anything like that? Do you know what I mean? It's
it depends. In fairness, sometimes we do get free trips. I know in Cowsum is free because I feel you've been trying writing an article and doing your marketing and social media and everything for it. I don't feel
you're working for it. You're doing the labor for it, isn't that?
But I know in some people's minds they're free, all right. But yeah, a lot of the time we, you know, Florida, we paid for all the flights, paid for some of the accommodation, paid in full price for the cruise. So, you know, like. It depends. The Sani cost me an absolute fortune, most expensive holiday I ever went on. But then you'd have other trips where, you know, you wouldn't pay for. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. And sometimes it's nice to pay in a sense that, you know, I'll still do the social media coverage and I'll still do it anyway, but you don't feel obliged to. Like I remember when we got the tickets, I got tickets from Disney to go when we were in Orlando. And the kids were absolutely exhausted. Now, I mean, falling like with exhaustion. And they were like, do we really need to go to Epcot? Now, as it turned out, Epcot was brilliant, but I'd say if I hadn't got those free tickets, we wouldn't have gone. I would have said, all right, let's just go back to the hotel. But I felt obliged to go because I'd been given to in one sense, but other times your holidays on your own, you know, because you feel, well, no, we have to go there, we have to do, you know. And I like my kids are 11 and 14, so like we didn't need to go and see the baby sections in the parks, but I felt I needed to go around and show the baby sections as well. Do you know, that sort of way?
It's kind of it's your job, I suppose, more than anything else. Like you mentioned Sani there, and it being one of the most expensive holidays you've ever been on, but it was amazing though.
Oh yeah, it's also one of the best now. Well, definitely the best from a beach kind of holiday perspective. The luxury is like, it's like nothing nowhere else really. Well, that I've experienced in Europe anyway. It really is. It's one of those, if money is no object, or you have a special occasion. I had a big birthday this year. I was there on a press trip 3 years ago, and for 2 nights, and I just fell in love with it. And I said I have to go back and bring the kids. I really wanted to go, and we did this year, and it was like, if I could afford it, I'd go every year, but I don't think it's going to happen. But it was absolutely amazing, and in fairness, sometimes things like that, although you might pay up front for a holiday, you know, I'll get work from it. I already got a job when I came back from it. So you know, you kind of need to,
and that's what's nice about it. It's like that it's an investment in your future nearly. I know that sounds really weird, I'm going to a fabulous place, but it is an investment. Like,
that's the excuse I tell my husband all the time when I'm spending money. No,
love it. Love it. What I suppose from a consistency, I mean, we talk about consistency, and we talk about the fact that you've so many hits on your website. you've so many followers now, and engaged followers as well, not just people kind of there for the ride of it all. What have you done consistently for the business since you started? Would you say what has been something that has just you think has driven you forward?
Well, I'm always writing, but I suppose the newsletter has helped in that front, because it's all about structure, isn't it? You know, putting some sort of, especially in a business like this, when you're on your own, it's kind of a lifestyle, and you know, you can work one day and not work another day. Where you have my newsletter that would now goes every fortnight, and at the time it went every week, it meant I had to have content for that to go out.
Yeah.
So it meant if I didn't work for 2 days, oh God, like I remember I used to send it every Tuesday, and I remember times where I just Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'd like do very little. And then I would literally work all day Saturday, all day Sunday, all day Monday, nonstop, and to get it out. So it depends, or I would have timed trips around it to get back. But it just meant that you were always doing content, you were always doing something. So sometimes having a thing like that, it was actually a good thing. And I still think it's a good thing, because it kind of makes you work, it makes you do it. But especially if you don't necessarily have to.
But that's the thing. I suppose when you do work for yourself and everything, it's not having to do it, you know. And I mean, who's going to care if the newsletter doesn't go out? But it does give you that consistency and that habit as well. What about for you? What daily habits do you have? Like, what do you do for you and for the business every day that sets you up?
I don't think I don't have anything every day that I do. I get up in the morning, and first thing I do is I check all my emails, my stats, and see what came in overnight and stuff like that, and booking wise and stuff. But I go for a run maybe 3 times a week. That's probably the only thing I do. But like, not even great since COVID. Actually, since I had COVID, I'm don't seem to have the same energy that I had. But I'd still make a point of doing that, just getting out. And I'd usually try and get out once or twice a week, meet people, or go to a do or something like that. But there isn't anything specific, I'd say, that I do on a daily basis. Very kind of, maybe I probably could put a bit more structure on it, maybe.
Yeah. Have you any other projects in the pipeline?
I'm trying to do this product that has been going on since before COVID, that I don't really know if I should say.
No, don't say it. I know.
Naive when it comes to things like that. I tell people too much, and then I won't say, but things happen, and I trust too many people. But I've been trying to get this thing off the ground for a couple of years now, and it's just fallen apart. So I'm actually back to square one again. So it'll probably be another year before it happens. So wait and see, does that happen. But I'm also really interested in expanding business in that sense. I kind of wasn't for a while, but I think COVID last year, I saw things coming, things improving after COVID. But this year has been absolutely phenomenal. Like, it's really growing, and I can see there's such huge potential there. So I've sort of got my mojo back now a bit to expand bigger. So I am sort of looking to get somebody else maybe on board and do a little bit more and expand. I think I'm probably lacking that kind of corporate. I know the whole idea is corporate to CAM, and here I'm now going back to corporate. But no, I'm kind of lacking a bit of that. I think as well, because I'm on Instagram, and I've a lot of social media, and sometimes maybe I'm not seen as seriously by like maybe some of the airline bosses or the hotel, things like that. I probably need to change that profile a little bit more. So sort of going to try and expand from that side. But
I mean, I think sometimes as well we have that in. You probably are viewed very well by those people, that way, and we have it in our heads. We're not.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, I think some people don't know about, I'm on so many radars, and then there'd be something on, and then people go, they don't know who you are, so it's funny. You think 1 minute you think you're, you'd be well known, and then another time, that one who used to be the travel agent, like you get a bit of that, that travel agent one, so like, yeah. So, and again,
I know, and it's like, it's like nearly said, like, do you know what I mean? It's like nearly said with, oh, I just hurt, and you're like, no, hang on, I wasn't just a travel agent. I was a director of a really successful company, and now I've created my own successful company. Thanks very much. Like,
it's funny how but some people are very corporate, like are really good at creating the brand and making it, they put out these press releases of like, as if it's like the next Rupert Murdoch or something, and there's these massive, like I've always been kind of, I suppose, very low key about the whole thing, which suited me. I don't really, if it's no one else's business, if I'm making enough money for myself, that's fine. I don't need to shout it on the rooftops. But I suppose if you are looking to expand a bit more, then maybe you do need that little bit of, a little bit of that kind of corporate.
I think we all could do a little bit of structure, I suppose, more than anything else. Yeah, that's it. Like, and it is, but then it is nice to have that ability to go, I will meet you for a coffee on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that's the balance. And I suppose that's people at different stages of life as well. Is there anything that not a lot of people know about you? Have you any dark closeted secrets?
I don't think I have any major dark closeted secrets now, but one thing, just I suppose, for people who think I'm so comfortable with TV and radio and everything else, like I really wasn't, I was very nervous about it. I go back to my wedding day where I lived, I don't know if you know Mount Argus Church there. It's between kind of Harold's Cross and Terranure and it has this massive aisle that like just goes on forever. It's a huge church, and that was my parish church. And when I was getting married, I didn't want to get married there because I thought the aisle was too big and people would be looking at me walking up the aisle. Like, I hated being this. I got engaged in the March and we got married in the August. I didn't want a big, I ended up having a big wedding, but I didn't at the time want a big wedding. We got a cancellation and I had one in the end. But I didn't want to be the center of attention. Want this. At the time, we tried to have a party, but at the time you couldn't get a bar extension unless you served food, and it was all a big thing. But basically, what I'm trying to say was, I hated all that. Didn't want anybody looking at me. Didn't want to be, So it's funny when you can change. Like it is possible. You just have to try and not. People don't really care what you look like. They really aren't. They are not really like, and if any of those kind of trolly ones are looking at you in that way, who cares? Because that's the kind of people they are anyway. So, you really have to sort of, you can step in front of the camera and you can get into it. And I do think if it's your own business, it's important that you show your face, particularly if you're trying to build that kind of trust with followers and with readers or with your clients. So I do think it is important, and with more and more people getting out there in front of camera, I think it's something that you kind of have to do. But just really, I suppose, to say that I was that person who was terrified and never did it before. I never wanted to do it, and then you just
And can you see a big change in yourself? Like if you looked at your first story versus your stories now, like
I don't even think about it. No, I remember I did a speech thing. The first thing I ever did, a kind of a paid job for a travel company, and I was standing on the podium and the thing collapsed. The actual podium thing collapsed into it. I'll never forget it. I actually never forget it. But no, I was terrified. I forced myself. And I say to my kids every day, step outside your comfort zone. Life begins your comfort zone. The things I've done since I started the business, like going on zip lines and roller coasters, I would never have done any of that. I got forced into do things because I felt I had to at work. And it's actually the best thing that ever happened. Brilliant. Because you do things you never would have done, and you just think, God, life's too short, and I should have done this years ago. And
I know. Isn't that it? I mean, if we could just tell ourselves in our 20s, what to do, I mean, it would be just. But anyway, listen. What do they say? Youth is wasted on the young. What is I was thinking about this while we're chatting. What is the best holiday that you've ever been on? What is your ideal?
It depends. Like from a relaxing week, beach, definitely Sani without a doubt. But I like generally, that isn't my normal style of holiday. In fact, I'd say that's the first time I've ever not left. I've never sat in the one place for a week and not left the resort. It's the first time I've ever done that. I always get out and about. I have to see places, and I kind of like road trips. I love South Africa for that reason. I think as an all-around holiday destination, South Africa is kind of hard to beat, because you've got the Fab City, you've got the safaris, you've got the beaches, you've got the wildlife, you have everything. As a sort of a once-off experience, I'd probably say Tanzania, when we did safaris in Tanzania. Amazing. And Ngorongoro Crater. I'd say that was probably a standout experience. And then of course you go to Zanzibar after that as well. But I still think overall, I loved California, the road trip in California as well. I like moving around, doing things. But I think as a destination, South Africa is kind of hard to beat, I think. But yeah, loads of different different things for different reasons. I like York. I like, I like different.
I know. I understand. But there's some good tips.
Your mood.
A corporate account or about taking a risk to create your own happiness. What would you say to somebody who's kind of thinking about getting in front of the camera or thinking about starting their own website? What would you say to them?
I love the name, by the way, corporate account. I actually just love it. And a fair play to you, Linda. I think it's a really, really good idea. And I think
thank you, Sarah.
I think more and more people want that. I think you can just see with COVID, nobody wants to work 5 days a week anymore. Nobody wants to trek into town. They want to work from home. They want that balance. They want flexibility. So it's more and more, whether we had planned it in our heads or not, it's just evolving, and it's the way life is going, I think, regardless of anything else. But I would definitely say, just it's that fear. It's getting over your fears. It's facing your fears, whatever you need to do to get outside that comfort zone, because it's like, it's I know it sounds like such a cliche now, but it really is. Like there's nothing. I always compare it to like stepping off that ledge when you're on those horrible wobbly bridges. I can't bear them, on the treetop things, or just that initial step off, the fear of it, or paragliding or anything like that. Once you're up there and you're gliding around, it's like, it's amazing. Or if you're on the zip line, that's the best part, when you get, it's the bit before that is always the hardest bit. But actually once you do it, you'll just feel so much happier. But you also just need to really, really, I think for me, just try and build up that confidence and stop caring what people think, because I cared what people think for way too long. I got so embarrassed, and, I wouldn't put up that picture if it had, totally ridiculous. Now I still, don't get me wrong, still take about 20 photos for the nice one, Still,
but that's from business perspective now. That's from your business perspective now.
I still do. If I have the nicer one, I'd put it up. I've not one for, I still don't get that whole thing about let's show all your bits and your bad bits to make it look real. No, I'm sorry, no, that wouldn't be me.
Give me an airbrush, thanks very much.
If there's a nicer picture, put up the nicer picture. But I think as long as you're authentic and honest, and just get over that fear of worrying what people think. It'll be so. I'm kind of really proud as well that I have a bit of a legacy, that I have a bit of a business left there for kids, and that kind of way as well. There's a bit of that in it that I didn't.
And it's not that it's not fluffy. It's real, like, as well. Do you know what I mean? It's great. It is brilliant. Every episode, Sarah, we do an either or section. So I have a couple of either ors for you.
All right, okay.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Oh, look, a cruise or a hotel?
Oh, it depends. I suppose I'd probably say cruise, but depends on the hotel. Depends on the cruise.
Slopes or the sun?
Oh, slopes.
Website or social media?
For my business, website.
Bubbles or a cocktail?
Sorry, which?
Bubbles or a cocktail?
Oh, cocktail.
Hire a car or getting picked up at the airport?
Getting picked up at the airport.
Self-catering or all-inclusive?
Self-catering.
Beach day or a pool day?
Beach.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
Brilliant. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Don't think so now. In fairness, I think we had a great chat there and covered loads. Looking forward to seeing it now as well.
Oh, thanks very much. I know, it's so great to have you on. Where can people find you actually? What's the website? What's the handle?
Well, the website is called thetravelexpert.ie, and that's what I want you all to read, all the articles, because that's the most important thing for me. And then on social media, I suppose, is where I showcase all that and showcase my travels and travel tips and everything. So you'll catch me on Instagram at travel_expert, bit of a mouthful, and then Facebook as well, the Travel Expert on Facebook. I'm also Sarah Slattery. You'll see me on social media under Sarah Slattery as well.
That's great, Sarah. Thank you so much for being a guest on Corporate to Cam. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a million. Thanks for having me, Linda.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Corporate to Cam podcast. Please subscribe, leave a nice review. It really does make a difference. Or simply come back and listen to us next time. My name is Linda Monaghan, inspiring you to take that leap from corporate to Cam.